Get comfortable. Close your eyes if you'd like. This is a story about an island, about survival, and about the strange mercy of being found by something you never knew was looking for you. The jungle does not care about your plan. It has its own plan, which is no plan at all. Just the accumulated weight of living things growing in every direction available to them. Roots splitting rock, canopy claiming light, the ground soft and unpredictable underfoot in ways that a satellite image cannot convey. The group of 11 that left the clearing at first light on day 20 has been walking for 4 hours and has covered, by Reed's best estimate, slightly less than 3 miles. The heat is the reason. Not the heat of the beach which had the ocean behind it, the open sky above it, some mechanism for moving air. This is interior heat, enclosed, layered, pressing from all sides like something with intent. It settles on the skin and stays there. It makes the air feel used. Patrice is at the front. This was not discussed. It simply became true within the first hour of walking, because Patrice moves through difficult terrain the way water moves, finding the line of least resistance without appearing to calculate it, adjusting without hesitation, never stopping to debate the route. She has been reading the ground and the canopy and the angle of light through the trees, with the practiced attention of someone who has navigated difficult places under significantly worse conditions and has the muscle memory to prove it. The group follows. Even Renata, who is accustomed to leading things, falls into the rhythm of following Patrice without comment, because the alternative is slower and the jungle does not negotiate. They stop at midday in a place where a stream crosses the path, shallow, clear, cold enough to be a small mercy. People drink, people sit. The water canteens are replenished, but already the calculation is visible on faces. They brought enough for 3 days at a moderate pace, and they are moving slower than moderate. By Patrice's assessment, they will need to find another water source before tomorrow evening or begin to make difficult decisions about the return. Reed says nothing about this. He is watching the trees. Nobody asks him what he sees. Nobody is sure they want to know. They walk together for much of the afternoon, Renata moving up to Patrice's shoulder as the terrain widens enough to allow 2 people abreast. It begins practically, Renata asking questions about the route, about what Patrice is looking for when she reads the canopy, and Patrice answering in the direct and economical way she does everything, without embellishment, giving exactly what was asked and nothing more. But the jungle has a way of loosening people. The heat, the effort, the shared rhythm of putting one foot in front of another for hours without distraction, it creates a specific condition of honesty, the kind that emerges when there is nothing left to perform for. Renata asks how long she was in the army. 20 years, Patrice tells her, without the particular inflation some veterans apply to the number, as though it were a credential to be impressed by. Simply information. Renata asks where she deployed. Patrice pauses for half a step, navigating a route, then continues. 3 tours, she says. The first 2 were, manageable is not the right word, but it is the word she has. The third one was Kandahar. She is quiet for a moment. They lost 4 people in 8 days. She kept 3 others alive who probably should not have made it, and for a long time she did not know how to feel about that math. She says it without asking for anything in return. Not sympathy, not acknowledgement, not the discomfort that sometimes passes for empathy. Simply reporting something true about her life. Renata is quiet. The jungle moves around them. She tells Patrice she is sorry. She means it, and she knows it is not sufficient, and she says it anyway because silence would be worse. People always say that, Patrice tells her, without resentment. She understands why. She adjusts the pack on her shoulders and reads a section of canopy ahead. You get to a point, she says, where what you want is not for people to be sorry. You want them to understand that the people who went in knew what they were risking and went anyway, and that matters. What they were asked to do mattered. She pauses. She just wishes more of the people making those decisions had to look at it up close. Renata does not respond to this, because she is looking at Patrice's profile, the set of her jaw, the particular economy of how she carries herself, and something is moving in her memory. An event, a reception at a military base in Jacksonville, some odd years ago. A congresswoman in a cocktail dress shaking hands with service members, standing for photographs, saying the things that politicians say at military events. There had been a combat medic that night, decorated, recently returned, brought up to the front of the room to be acknowledged. Renata had shaken her hand. She had looked her in the eye and said something about sacrifice and service, and she had meant it, the way she means most things, which is genuinely and insufficiently. She is almost certain it was this woman. Renata files the memory away without mentioning it. What she is feeling is not easy to name. Part of it is the recognition itself, the collision of contexts, the person from the formal room now leading her through a jungle with a machete. But beneath that, quieter and harder to sit with, the memory of a vote. A wartime operations approval bill 5 years ago, one she supported because the politics required it, because her committee assignment required it, because she had been told by people she trusted that it was the right thing to do. She had voted yes and moved on, the way you move on from votes that are not the ones you lie awake over. She wonders, walking 2 steps behind Patrice's steady, unhurried pace, whether that vote sent this woman to Kandahar. She does not ask. She is not sure she has the right to know. Flashback, Haruki. He is 9 years old and he is sitting outside the vice principal's office at his elementary school in Kyoto, and the plastic chair is too big for him, and his feet do not reach the floor. He has been here before. Not many times, but enough that the administrative assistant at the desk has stopped looking up when he comes in, which he has decided to interpret as familiarity rather than judgment. The office smells like copy paper and green tea and the particular anxiety of children waiting to be addressed by adults. He swings his feet. He waits. His grandmother arrives 22 minutes later. He knows because he counted. She comes through the front door of the school with the focused efficiency of a woman who has rearranged her afternoon for this and would like that fact acknowledged, her coat still buttoned from outside, her handbag held against her side. She looks at him. He looks at her. The administrative assistant directs her to the vice principal's door. The vice principal is a direct man who speaks carefully. He explains there was an incident at lunch. Some of the boys in Haruki's class. He says the word boys the way adults say it when they mean something else. Something they will not name in this room because naming it would require a position, and choosing a side is not what vice principals are paid to do. There was some teasing. It became physical. Your grandchild was not the aggressor. His grandmother nods. She has not looked at Haruki during this conversation. She is looking at the vice principal with the expression she uses for situations she intends to manage efficiently and exit quickly. She asks if there is anything else. The vice principal says there is not. but that Haruki's classmates will be dealt with appropriately. In the car, she is quiet for 3 blocks. Then, in Japanese, she says his name, Honami, the name his parents gave him, the name that legally belongs to him, and even at 9 he understands the deliberateness of this. She is using it as a warning and an offering at the same time. "You must stop," she tells him. "Stop what?" he asks. "You know what?" she says. "The way you dress, the way you cut your hair." She does not look at him while she drives. "I am not saying this to be cruel," she tells him. "I am saying this because the world is not kind to people who make themselves targets. You are smart enough to understand that." He is quiet. She says his name again, not his chosen name, but the name listed on his birth certificate, the name inscribed on his ID and his school registration paperwork, Honami. "I just want you to be safe," she tells him. He looks out the window at the streets of Kyoto passing. He is 9 years old, and he already knows, with the clarity of children who have arrived early at difficult understandings, that what she is asking him to do is not the same as being safe. He knows that the performance of a self he is not is its own kind of damage. He does not have the language for this yet. He has only the window and the streets and the certainty in his body that he is not what she is asking him to be and cannot become it, no matter how many times she uses that name. "Okay, Oba-chan," he says quietly. He does not mean it. She probably knows he does not mean it. They drive the rest of the way home in the silence of 2 people who love each other and cannot find the shape of that love that does not cost someone something. He will spend the next 8 years navigating this, the push and pull of her, the love that is real and the understanding that is not, the woman who raised him after his parents left and who cannot see him, and who he cannot stop needing to be seen by. He will be 17 years old on a plane, still in this negotiation with her, still waiting for the conversation that resolves it. The plane will not land where either of them expected. They find each other at the back of the group, which is where people end up when they are not interested in making effort for anyone watching. Zack and Elise move through the jungle with a looseness that suggests they have done physically difficult things before without making an event of it. They are fraternal twins, early 20s, raised in Manhattan, which is its own kind of outdoor education, Elise tells Haruki when he asks. She says it with a straight face and then, when he does not laugh immediately, tells him that was a joke. He says he knows and smiles lightly. This is how it begins. They are easy to be around. This surprises him. He has not found many people easy to be around on this island, not because the people are bad, but because he has been carrying so much and carrying it quietly, and quiet carrying tends to create distance. But Zack and Elise do not push. They talk easily and listen easily and do not require him to explain himself, which is the rarest kind of company. Elise says, somewhere in the second hour of the afternoon, that he seems like he has got something on his mind. She says it the way some people do, not as an intrusion, not as a demand, just as an observation left open. Haruki is quiet for a moment. Then he tells them he was travelling with his grandmother. She was on the plane. Neither of them says anything immediately. Zack asks after a moment if she... and then he stops. Haruki tells him that she had already passed when he found her in the water after the crash. He says it plainly, in the way he has learned to say the things he cannot change. She raised him after his parents left, he states bluntly. He does not elaborate about his parents. He moves past it the way you move past certain rooms in a house, quickly, acknowledging they are there. My grandmother loved me, he says. She just could not always see me for who I was. Elise tells him she knows that kind of love. He looks at her. She's looking at the path ahead. There is a quality in her voice that says she will not push, but is not unfamiliar with this territory. The specific quality of someone who has navigated something adjacent and knows what it costs. They walk together for the rest of the afternoon. They do not say much more about it. But something has been offered and received, and the carrying is, if not lighter, at least shared. They make camp when the light dies, which happens faster in the interior than it does on the coast. The canopy takes the dusk and compresses it. 1 hour of amber, then grey, then dark, with very little transition between. Patrice directs the fire building with the same efficiency she brings to everything, designating tasks without appearing to issue orders, and the camp is functional within a half hour of stopping. The mood is not celebratory. They covered perhaps 5 miles on the first day. The supplies are a concern. 3 people have blisters that need attention. The heat has taken more out of everyone than they let on. Renata sits apart for a while, looking at the map Badaïs copied from the bunker, running her finger along routes and finding none of them reassuring. Reed sits across the fire from Marcus. They have not spoken much during the day. Reed at the back, Marcus in the middle, both absorbed in the work of moving. But in the firelight, with the camp settling into sleep around them and the jungle doing whatever it does at night, there is the intimacy of 2 people who are both still awake, and both know it. Marcus asks whether Reed sleeps much out here. Not particularly, Reed tells him. Old habit. He spent many years in situations where sleeping fully was inadvisable. Intelligence work, Marcus says. Reed nods. A beat, the fire crackles. Somewhere in the canopy above them, something shifts and resettles. Marcus asks what it is like, knowing things about people that they do not know you know. Reed looks at him. The question is too specific to be casual. It depends on the person, he says. Sometimes it is a tool. Sometimes it is weight. Knowing something about someone and choosing what to do with that knowledge is its own kind of work. He says it without emphasis. He watches Marcus receive it. Marcus's expression does not change. He is very good at not changing expression, which is itself information. Sounds lonely, he says. Most things worth doing are, at some point, Reed tells him. They sit for a while longer. The conversation moves. Toward the island, toward what Reed knows and doesn't know, toward the practical question of whether the second day of walking will be better or worse than the first. Marcus is smart, quick, comfortable with complexity. He is also, Reed notes, very careful about the specifics. He speaks in general. He generalizes about his work. He says things like, "I've been around people who bend rules before," as though he is describing a profession he has observed, rather than one he practices. He does not lie, exactly. He omits. Reed knows the shape of omission. He has practiced it his entire career. He does not push. He files it. He watches. He thinks, this man is not who he says he is, or not entirely. The question is whether it matters, and in what direction. Haruki does not sleep. He has tried. He laid still with his eyes closed and listened to the jungle, and waited for the loosening that precedes sleep, and it has not come. His mind is doing what it does on this island, running, circling, arriving at the same questions from different directions and finding the same absence of answers at the centre of each one. He gives up somewhere past midnight and sits up and looks at the fire, which has burned down to coal, which casts a low orange light across the clearing and the sleeping shapes of 10 other people. The man is sitting across the fire from him, not from the tree line this time, simply there, cross-legged in the same way he always is, unhurried as though he had been there for a while and was waiting for Haruki to notice. When Haruki sees him, he does not startle. He has stopped startling at this. He looks at the man across the low orange light, and the man looks back. "Hey," the man says. "Hey," Haruki says in return. A beat. The coal breathes. Around them, the jungle does its slow nocturnal work. The man says he knows this is weird, with a quality of genuine apology. The apology of someone who has had to deliver this message before and has never found a version of it that is not weird. He has been trying to figure out the right time, he says. He is not sure there is one. Haruki asks who he is. "My name is Hugo," the man says. "Hugo Reyes." He pauses. "People used to call me Hurley." He says it like a footnote, like a name that carries its own weight and history, and that he offers carefully, aware of what it contains. He was on this island before, he tells Haruki. A long time ago. A lot happened. He has been here ever since, in a way he cannot fully explain and that Haruki probably would not believe yet anyway. "I believe most things about this island," Haruki responds. Hurley looks at him. Something shifts in his expression, recognition, or something that sits just beside it. "Yeah," he says, he knows. That is why he has been coming to Haruki and not the others. Some people can feel the island. Haruki is one of them. They sit together for a while. Hurley asks about the group. How many? How long? What happened in the storm? He listens with the attention of someone who already has a context for this island that the survivors do not have, and that Haruki is beginning to understand he is being offered access to. Then Hurley tells him he wants to show him something. Tomorrow, or the day after, not far in island terms, which is different from regular terms. It is important, he says, not dangerous, but important. The group needs to know it exists. He cannot go in with them when they get there. He says it the way he says things that are complicated, plainly, without apology, as though the complication is simply a fact of his existence, and he has made peace with it. But he leads them there. Haruki asks what it is. Hurley tells him that the group he was here with long ago arrived the same way that Haruki did. He pauses. "A plane," he says. He says the word carefully, the way you say a word that carries weight. The wreckage is still there. The jungle has taken a lot of it back, but the pieces are where they fell. He knows that sounds like it might be hard to see. But there is something there the group needs to find, something that has been waiting. Haruki is quiet for a moment. Then he asks why Hugo is telling him this. "Because the island chose him," Hurley says. Simply, without drama, as though simplicity is the only honest register for something this large. He knows that is a lot, but it is the truth. The stone Haruki touched, the earthquake, what he felt that day, that was not an accident. The island does not cause accidents. He is going to understand more as they go. Right now, he just needs to know he is supposed to be here, and that what he finds is going to matter. He pauses. Also, he should probably sleep. He looks exhausted. Haruki says he is. Hurley almost smiles, a large, soft expression, the smile of a man who has seen a great deal and retains the capacity for warmth anyway. "Get some rest," he says. "I'll be nearby." He stands, a large man unfolding from the ground with careful dignity, and then he is simply gone, the way he always goes, between one moment and the next, as though the island receives him back the way water receives a stone, without disturbance, without remainder. Haruki looks at the coals for a while, then he lies back down. He sleeps better than he has since the crash. Reed wakes to find most others still asleep, which is not unusual. He lies still for a moment and listens to the jungle coming back to itself at dawn. The birds first, then the insects, then the quality of light that filters through the canopy in early morning, green and gold and very old. He looks at the remnants of the fire. He looks at the sleeping shapes of 10 people arranged in the practical geometry of people who have learned to find rest wherever it is available. Marcus is at the edge of the fire, crouching, pushing the last coal apart with a stick. When he sees Reed, he nods in his direction. "I hope I didn't wake you," Marcus says. "No, not at all," Reed responds politely. He stretches, deeply breathing in the fresh morning air that is already saturated with humidity. "I'm going to take a walk," Marcus says as he stands, brushing the dirt from his knees. "Need to take care of business, if you know what I mean. I just wanted to wait until someone was awake so that nobody thought I had disappeared." "Yes, of course." "Do your thing," Reed responds. He watches Marcus disappear into the jungle quietly. Marcus's pack is near where he slept, partially open from the morning's repacking. Reed does not go through it. That would be too much, too obvious, not the kind of search he is making. He looks at what is visible: a water canteen, a folded piece of tarpaulin, a paperback with the spine cracked. And there, just at the top, not buried, not hidden particularly, just present, a wallet. Brown leather, worn at the corners, the kind of wallet that has been carried long enough to take the shape of the pocket it lives in. Reed picks it up, opens it, one motion, unhurried. Inside, behind a scratched plastic window, a photograph. A man, smiling, somewhere outdoors, the kind of candid photograph taken by someone who knows the subject well. The man in the photograph is Marcus. Younger by a few years perhaps, but unmistakably the same face. Below the photograph, a card, a Georgia state driver's license. Reed reads the name on it. Julian. He holds the wallet for a moment, looking around to ensure no one else has spotted him snooping. He looks at the name and the face above it, and then he closes the wallet, sets it back exactly where he found it, and moves away from Marcus's belongings. It's as if he were never there. He adds it to the inventory of things he knows and has chosen, for now, to hold. Haruki is awake by the time the camp begins to stir. He goes to Renata before the morning meal is finished and tells her what she needs to know in the language she will accept, that he has a sense of direction, that something is ahead, that the group should follow him, plainly, without mysticism, with the quiet certainty that is harder to argue with than any elaborate justification. Renata looks at him for a long moment. "How far?" she asks. "A few miles, maybe less," he tells her. She asks if he is sure. He says yes. With a pat on his shoulder, she agrees and tells the rest of the group that Haruki will be leading the group today. Haruki does not tell Renata, or anyone in the group, about Hugo Reyes. Not yet. He is holding that the way you hold something fragile, carefully, with both hands, until you understand what it is. The second day is harder than the first in every way except one. The heat is worse. They have moved deeper into the interior, and the canopy has thickened and the air moves less than it did yesterday. The pace is slower because 3 people are managing blisters, and the water is rationed now, formally. which everyone knew was coming and which lands differently now that it has been said out loud. Renata manages the rationing decision with precision and without drama, and nobody challenges it, which is itself a kind of authority. Although none of them have traversed this part of the island, Haruki seems to know exactly where he is headed. He does not know how he knows. He has not seen the man again since the first night. Not in the firelight, not at the edge of the trees, not in a dream. But there is a pull, a directionality, the same quality he has felt near the nodes at home, near the second node's clearing, near anything on this island that has wanted to be found. He walks second in line behind Patrice, and twice. When Patrice pauses at a fork in the growth, Haruki says that way and she goes without asking why. Reed is watching this from the middle of the group. He has noticed. He does not yet know what he is noticing. He falls into step beside Renata midway through the afternoon, when the group has stretched out along the path and the nearest person ahead of them is far enough away to make conversation private. He tells her he would like to clear something up. Renata asks if it must be now. He's been trying to find the right moment, he tells her. He has decided there is not one. So, she keeps walking. She does not tell him to stop. He tells her she has been building a case against him since the night he disclosed what he knows. Without accusation. With the flat precision of someone stating an observed fact. In front of the group. In smaller conversations. Positioning him as the person whose motives are unclear, whose knowledge may be weaponized, whose presence on that plane is too convenient to be innocent. He understands why, he says. If he were in her position, he would do the same thing. It is strategically sound. Renata asks what his objection is then. His objection is that it is not accurate. He told this group everything he knew the moment Val asked him to, which was the moment he understood they needed it. He has not withheld information since that night. He answered every question directly and honestly, including the questions about whether he was placed on that plane, which is the most dangerous thing he could have admitted and which he admitted anyway because he thought the group deserved the truth more than he deserved the protection of ambiguity. He is not asking her to trust him. He is asking her to be accurate when she characterizes what he has done. Renata is quiet for a moment. The path narrows briefly, and they move single file. When it widens again, she tells him he has been honest about what he knows. She will grant him that. Reed thanks her. That does not mean he is not a liability, she says. It means he is a transparent one. He tells her he can live with that distinction. A beat. He wants to ask her something, he says, and he would like her to consider it seriously. She has been on this island for 20 days. She organized, campaigned, argued for this expedition, and maneuvered herself into a leadership position that no one formally granted her. All of this without telling a single person in that camp who she is. Renata's pace does not change. Her expression does not change. He disclosed classified intelligence work in front of 47 frightened people and accepted the consequences, he tells her. She has not told anyone her last name or anything about who she is. A sitting United States Congresswoman, one with committee assignments that include oversight of defense and intelligence operations, ends up on a plane that crashes on an island the intelligence community has been monitoring for 50 years. And she has not thought it relevant to mention any part of that to the group she is now leading. He says it quietly, not cruelly, but he says it. The jungle moves around them. Somewhere ahead, Patrice has slowed to wait at a fork in the path. Renata Howe, a British intelligence officer, knows that she is a sitting US Congresswoman. She doesn't ask, not yet anyway. That is not the same thing, Renata responds. She adds, I have no former knowledge of this island. My career is irrelevant. You've even said yourself that only a handful of governments and people within those governments are privy to such information. Reed disagrees. They are both people with complicated reasons for being on that plane, and complicated reasons for what they have and have not said, and the difference is that he has been judged for his, and she has not yet been asked about hers. He is not asking her to answer to him. He is asking her to consider whether the standard she has applied to him is one she would survive if it were applied to her. Patrice calls back from the fork, asking left or right. From further ahead, Haruki says left. Renata and Reed look at each other for one long moment. Renata closes the conversation by thanking Reed for his suggestion, a very political way of avoiding accountability. She moves ahead of Reed, deciding to walk next to Patrice. However, Renata is quieter than she was before, and her eyes have the quality they get when she is running a calculation she has not yet finished. They stop in the early afternoon at a natural clearing. Not made, just a gap in the canopy where a large old tree came down some years ago and the regrowth has not yet reclaimed the light. Haruki stands at the edge of it and looks north and feels the pull more strongly than he has felt it yet. Not alarming, not frightening, just certain, the way the frequency was certain, the way the stone was warm before anyone told him it would be. It is close, he says. Renata asks what is close. Something we need to find, he tells her. She looks at him for a long moment. Then she says, all right, let's continue onward after we take a break. Haruki notices the trust that Renata has placed on him, not asking clarifying questions about what or how he knows. At only 17 years old, this level of respect is not something he has ever experienced from any other adult in his life, especially not on this island. He appreciates it. They take an extended break in the clearing. Renata and Patrice hand out lunch, which consists of a handful of edible foliage and their last bag of packaged peanuts from the plane. They are starting to feel it, the clawing of an empty stomach, the ache of bones and joints without proper sustenance. Patrice, quietly, has taken note of everyone's status. She knows they can't continue much longer without a real source of nutrition. Haruki sits at the clearing's edge and looks north. The large man is there. Not close, at the far edge of the clearing where the trees begin again, half in shadow, sitting cross-legged on a root with the patience of someone who has been here for a while. He is looking at Haruki. When Haruki sees him, he raises one hand, the same slow, deliberate gesture, and Haruki raises his back. They look at each other for a moment across the length of the clearing. Hurley points north, a single gesture, clear and unhurried. Haruki nods. Haruki leads them to it the way water leads to the sea, not by decision exactly, more by gravity, by the pull that has been building in him since the first night, that grew stronger on the second day and is now so certain it has stopped feeling like instinct and started feeling like memory. He walks ahead of Patrice for the first time and she lets him because she has been watching him navigate and she knows the difference between a person guessing and a person who knows. The jungle opens, and there it is. Sections of fuselage, half swallowed by vegetation, great curved pieces of an aircraft that were never designed to rest in this position, at these angles, but that have been here long enough that the island has begun the slow process of incorporating them. Vines thread through window frames, ferns root in the cracked flooring. The whole structure sits half reclaimed and half preserved, in the way the island preserves things it has decided to keep. Overhead, still visible in the canopy where the crash tore through it years ago, a corridor of light. The scar the plane made on its way down, slowly closing. Nobody speaks for a long moment. Reed is the first to move. He walks the perimeter of the largest fuselage section slowly, reading what remains of the markings on the exterior. When he stops, his voice has a quality it does not usually have, stripped of its careful management, just a man looking at something that confirms the worst version of what he already suspected. Oceanic, he says. Oceanic 815. This crashed here. He looks at the wreckage. Years ago. The group stands at the edge of it and no one says anything for a long time. It is Renata who moves first, not into the wreckage but along the tree line skirting it, her eyes on the canopy rather than the fuselage. She stops. She looks up. Then she calls back to the group and something in her voice has changed completely. The measured political precision gone, replaced by something rawer and more immediate. There are coconut palms here, she tells them. A stand of them, heavy with fruit, growing where the crash tore a gap in the canopy and let the light in. And beside them, she says, her voice doing something she probably does not intend to do, papaya trees. Wild papaya, the fruit hanging in clusters, ripe, the orange flesh visible where something has already split one open at the base of the trunk. The effect on the group is immediate and complete. People move toward the trees the way people move toward water when they have been without it. Not running, but not walking either, something between the two, the body deciding before the mind has finished thinking. Zach is up the first palm before anyone has organized a plan, dropping coconuts with the practiced ease of someone who has done this before, which is another thing to file about Zach. Elise catches them. Reed uses a piece of wreckage to split open the first papaya, and the smell of it, sweet, warm, impossibly real, spreads through the clearing like a rumour. They eat. Not carefully, not rationed, not portioned out with the grim efficiency of people managing scarce resources. They eat the way people eat when they have been hungry for a long time and something abundant has appeared. With both hands, with the kind of unself-conscious gratitude that strips away everything else for a few minutes and leaves only this. Food, sunlight through a gap in the canopy, 11 people who walked into a jungle and found something the island had been keeping for them. Renata sits with papaya juice running down her wrist and looks at the fruit in her hand, and for one unguarded moment her expression is the expression of a 17-year-old girl standing in a hallway, holding something she did not know she was allowed to want. It is gone in an instant, but it was there. How did you know where this place was? Elise asks Haruki in front of the group. Haruki shrugs his shoulders and responds, just had a feeling. The group accepts his answer, although not believing it. It is Patrice who eventually walks into the wreckage. She does it the way she does everything, without ceremony practically, because someone must, and it might as well be her. She moves through the interior of the fuselage slowly, stepping over debris, reading what is salvageable. Seats still bolted to the floor in sections. Overhead compartments, some open and empty, some still closed. Personal effects scattered by years of rain and wind and the island's particular habit of rearranging things. A shoe, a book swollen beyond reading, the rusted frame of what was once glasses. She calls back to the group. There are things in here, she tells them. Come carefully. They file in one at a time. Marcus is working his way along the rear section when he finds it. A seat back pocket, the fabric rotted but the contents preserved by the plastic lining inside. He reaches in. His hand closes around something that is unmistakably, unambiguously metal. He looks down. A handgun, compact, dark, loaded. He can tell by the weight before he checks, and he checks quickly the practiced motion of someone who has handled firearms before, which is another thing he has not mentioned to anyone. He looks up. The group is scattered through the fuselage, calling to each other, picking through debris, nobody looking at him. He puts the gun in his pack. He zips the pack. He keeps moving. He does not say anything. Reed is the one who finds the case. It is wedged beneath a buckled seat frame, metal, sealed with a rubber gasket that has done its job through whatever years this has been sitting here. He works it free. He gets it open. Inside, wrapped in oilcloth, documents. And beneath them, a journal, hard-bound, its cover water-stained at the edges, but intact. He lifts out the top document first. It takes him a moment to understand what he is looking at. Then he says, in a voice that has gone very still, that it is a manifest. The passenger manifest of Oceanic 815. He unfolds it along its existing creases. It has been folded and refolded many times, by hands that are not here now. Names, seat assignments, a numbered list of people who were on a plane that went down onto this island and who, apparently, left this behind. He reads down the list. His eyes stop. Hugo Reyes, he says, row 20, seat C. He says it the way you say something you have just found proof of. In a document. In a piece of paper that should not exist. Haruki is standing at the edge of the group. He has been standing very still since Reed opened the case. He does not move when he hears the name. He does not make a sound. He simply stands there with the name in the air and something that has been a question becoming, very quietly, an answer. Sleep well. The island will be here when you wake up. It always is.